Right, so sorry about this video taking so long to make. I've just been extremely busy at the moment, and also the weather's been terrible to say the least. So this year the Cordwood challenge is running again, mostly the same rules as last year, but I'm adding in a few mini challenges. Now the Cordwood challenge, for those of you who don't know, was started by Steven Edholm at Skill Cult. Basically the challenge is to learn how to fell, buck, split and basically process large quantities of wood. Saws are allowed, but only when making the back cut when felling a tree, when you need to use wedges for safety reasons. Otherwise the goal is just to use an axe. You can use any axe you want, but I think you get the most benefit when you use the same axe for everything. Now obviously for this, health and safety is very important. Felling trees, using axes, there is serious risks involved and you want to take personal responsibility for that. Make sure you research as much as you can. I mean, axes are simple tools, but there's a hell of a lot more to them than meets the eye. So do your research. I'll put a lot of sources down in the description. You should check them all out. And if you've never felled a tree before, I would not attempt it without getting some expert advice or help from a family member who's in forestry or something. It's not something you want to play around with if you don't know what you're doing. The challenge is basically to fell, buck, limb, split, and stack a stack of wood 8 feet long and 4 feet high. The logs can be any length, but you must use an axe for all of it. So once you cut one of those stacks, I think you'll learn the most out of it, but you can cut as many as you want. It's well worth doing, and I think you'll be surprised how much you learn and how quickly you progress to being very efficient. Same as last year, I'm also doing a sort of simplified bucking challenge. For people who don't have trees they can cut down, is a good way to get involved in, perhaps as preparation for doing the full challenge. Basically, you're only doing the bucking and splitting portion of it. If you can get some long logs and just chop them up and then stack the pieces you chopped. Obviously, you can't include any ends of sawn ends on them, so you need to keep them separate. It's a good way to get started and involved if you don't have access to land. Last year it was a great success and getting some people involved who otherwise couldn't have. Same as last year, I'm bringing back the hewing challenge, so basically just keep track of how many square feet or square meters of hewn surface you've chopped. So if you're into hewing, keep a record if you can. Same as last year, I'm bringing back the big log challenge, where basically you have to buck or chop in half a log that's over 50 centimeters in diameter. The only rule really is it has to be done within the same day. So if you've got particularly large or very, very tough wood, I mean, you could chip away at it for days on end, but the whole point of the challenge is to cut something really big and really tiring. And it also teaches a bit different chopping, because mostly for the Cordwood challenge you'll be chopping stuff under 12 inches. And for this kind of log, you have to learn how to remove chips better, and it's very different, and I think you'll learn why larger axes were used, and particularly heavier axes can sometimes be useful. Last year I had a couple of people do it, and it was just a good little mini challenge you can do within a day. It doesn't take you too long and you only need one log to do it. So the two new challenges I'm adding this year, firstly a rehandling challenge, so might be popular with some bushcrafters. Basically the challenge is to take an axe with a broken handle and replace the handle in the field. You don't have to do it in the field, but you can simulate that by not allowing yourself to access various tools. But do it with only things you'd have available, you know, out in the wild. And also, you cannot do it with pre-bought store handles or wood that's not native. So if you can, source some local species of wood. So for the UK that could be something like ash or beech is popular. And make your handle from scratch with as minimal tools as possible. Now, if you can justify why you might be carrying that camping or have access to it, then that's fine. But definitely no power tools, but minimal as possible. So something like a multi-tool would be a good starting point, and maybe you might have some other tools with you in theory. But the goal is to do it with as minimal as possible, and it should be interesting seeing how difficult it is, how long it takes, and also what woods work and what woods don't work. I think it'd be good to test the handle as well and try and break it, and see how durable the local woods are as well. But obviously do that with caution, because when an axe head goes flying, it can seriously injure someone or damage property. So if you can, find some way of testing that. But I think it'd be very interesting to do and build up some data. You could obviously do it with something like this tomahawk style with the round eye axe, which is fine, but it's not really much of a challenge at that point. I mean, you can do these in 5 minutes, and I mean, do it if you want, but really the goal is to make handles with the oval-eyed slip fit or the wedged, like, you know, American style. So that should bring in some interesting information, and be an interesting thing to test, because it's spoken about so often as, oh, I can replace a wood handle in the field if I need to. But nobody really talks about how long it will take or what woods work, and particularly areas where you don't have hickory available, what your options are. The last new challenge I'm adding is basically making joints, like dovetails, mortise and tenons, log cabin joints, anything you can find that interests you, and make 5 of them, 5 different joints. All you need really is some firewood, which you can hew down the surface or not, and then cut the joints into them using only an axe. There's obviously specialist axes you can use for it, but you know, you can use any axe you want. And yeah, just try making 5 different ones that interest you. You know, maybe start with something simple like one of the joints used for making log cabins, and then do something like a dovetail, which is a bit more complex and precise. So I think these small challenges will add a bit of variety and some different interesting information about using axes. Mainly the focus has been on the felling and bucking and all this, but axes have historically been used for all sorts of tasks, and a lot of this knowledge has been lost, so it'd be quite good to rediscover how to do things. There's been a lot of people involved, or just even following the challenge out of interest and seeing what people are up to. So the best way is to obviously follow a challenge. There's a Facebook page, Axe Cordwood Challenge, and there's also a little community going on our site, which has got some great guys on there who have really put an effort last year. So if you don't like Facebook or the bigger social media platforms, then Arborsite's probably the best way to go. There's also Instagram, so if you use hashtag Axe Cordwood Challenge or hashtag Working Axes, that's a good way to keep up. But to be honest, I'm not really a fan of Instagram. It's not great for discussion. So if you can, the Facebook and Arborsite. I'm also on Reddit quite a lot, so on the Axecraft page. So if you can share something there, I'll probably see it and have a bit of chat on that as well. Really, one of the best things to do, though, if you can, is upload some stuff onto YouTube, because that way you can share longer videos and show people what you're doing. So hopefully I've covered everything. Any questions, check the description first, because once I've finished editing this, I'll write any missed points in the description. And any other questions, please feel free to email me. I'll put my email down in the description below, and I'll get back to you as fast as I can. So the challenge officially started on January the 1st, and it's finishing at the end of the year. So if you have anything you want to share for the final video, where I show everyone who took part, then please submit that to me before the end of the year, so I can obviously edit it and create the video for next year. The main goal to keep in the back of your head is to do this challenge without injuring yourself, because there is the potential there for some really serious injuries. So, you know, safety is always the main priority. So stay safe, and looking forward to seeing how people get on.